Hello, 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 and welcome to our show. Pardon me, Tina Baxter. I'm your host. Nursing news you can use at 5. Thank you for tuning in. Hello to those of you that are on our Nurse Shark Academy page and those of you that are on our Baxter Professional Services page. And also, hi to those that are watching on YouTube. We have a lot to cover today and some great, exciting announcements. So let's get to it. Today is June the 28th, 2023, the last Wednesday in June. Looking forward to July and all that the future holds. So let's get with our affirmations and our inspirational quotes for today. First one: if the plan doesn't work, change the plan, not the goal. If the plan doesn't work, change the plan, not the goal. That's very appropriate, and we're going to talk about that in a moment towards the end and why that's appropriate for today. And then life is about the journey, not the destination. Life is about the journey, not the destination. And again, wow, very appropriate for the season that we are in. And this is a quote from William Long Good. Dreams and dedication are a strong combination. Dreams and dedication are a strong combination, from William Longgood. And again, this comes from the Inspirational Daily Calendar by Lauren Dratch. Okay, we are going to skip the What I Am Learning segment because I wanted to get into the news because it is juicy. All right, so let's start with our first story. This is coming out of the great state of Texas. All right, this is from Spectrum News. So this came out yesterday, and I'm sure those of you in Texas who definitely know, but I want the rest of the country to know what happened. So Ascension nurses in Texas and Kansas begin a one-day strike. Approximately 2,000 registered nurses at three Ascension hospitals are partaking in a historic one-day strike in Wichita, Kansas, and Austin, Texas on June 27th. So that was yesterday. Okay. These strikes mark the largest nurse strikes in both Texas and Kansas. Nurses were informed on June 16th that they would face an additional 3-day lockout following their June 27th strike. So, this is what happened. They decided to go on strike. Management said, if you go on strike, we're going to lock you out for 3 days. So this is Chris Fuentes, who's a registered nurse in the neonatal intensive care unit at Extension Seton Medical Center in Austin. And she says management's retaliatory threats are despicable, but union nurses won't give up on our fight for our patients. Ascension's dangerous staffing practices disrupt our ability to provide quality care and put our patients at risk every day. This is a clear sign Ascension would rather use its vast resources to delay improvement than to invest in the care our patients and our communities deserve with appropriate staffing. Ascension Seton Medical Center Austin on June 16th issued a statement calling the strikes disappointing and saying they will create hardships, stating, quote, we are disappointed that the NNU has made the decision to proceed with a one-day strike, especially given the economic and logistical hardship this will present for our associates and their families, and the questions and concerns this action may cause our patients and their loved ones. Patient safety is our top priority, and ASMCA is well prepared to remain open and care for our patients during this work stoppage event. We have a comprehensive contingency plan in place to ensure there's no disruption in care or service for those we are privileged to serve. The strike began in Austin June 27th at 6:45 a.m. and it ran through this morning at 6:45 a.m. The strike in Wichita began at 7 a.m. on Tuesday and will run through 7 a.m. on Wednesday. There will be a heat break from 1 to 4 p.m., giving the scorching temperatures. National Nurses United says the strikes follow Ascension's continued dissolution of contract negotiations with registered nurses, including proposals that would enforce safe staffing and improve nurse retention and recruitment. So this all happened yesterday. So then this story came out. So let me know. Let me know how I feel about it. I'm just reporting. Let me know how you feel about it. All right. So then this came in, and this is from KUT 90.5. And it says nurses blocked from entering Austin Ascension Cedar Medical Center after strike. After a day-long strike, unionized nurses attempted to enter Ascension Seton Medical Center on Wednesday morning to work scheduled shifts and were turned away by security. A group of the nurses walked together to the hospital's south entrance, where the doors were blocked by a row of folding tables. Several security guards met the group as the nurses arrived. As of right now, you're not authorized to work, so y'all are going to have to leave, one guard said. And there is a picture of the nurses standing in with security. If you want to look at the story, yeah. So it says in the front of the group was, in fact, you know what? I can do this because I figured out how to do it. So hold on one second. I want to show you because this, to me, this is amazing. I want to share this just briefly so you can see this. So I'm going to share my screen. And I want you to see this real quick. Look at this picture. So you got these nurses here. It looks like this must be a hospital administrator of some sort. And the security guard facing off with these nurses who are reporting to work. I just had to show that picture because that was wow. So it says in the front of the group was Christine Kittleson, a nurse who works with mothers and babies at the hospital. She pushed back, noting that no one had individually checked their badges to ensure that there were nurses on strike. So they don't know if they were the nurses who were actually on strike. So they were just told you can't come in. Wow. She says, how do you know? Is it because we're here together? How do you differentiate between whether we were here or not yesterday? After a brief exchange with security held firm on their position, the group turned around and left the hospital premises. As the nurses walked away, they chanted, "We'll be back, we'll be back." Ascension released a statement prior to Tuesday's strike saying that they had contracted with a staffing agency to provide temporary nursing staff during the strike. The hospital said it was contractually required to commit to a minimum of 4 days of work for those temporary staffers, which is probably true, right? Because it was a 1-day strike. So the National Nurses United, the union, says that the additional 3-day lockout was a deliberate ploy to intimidate nurses from speaking out. So there's going back and forth with that. So according to what Kittleson said, it's safer for us to be in there. We know our facility, we know our hospital, we know our orders. This is the safe option, and they're denying us access. So NNU said nurses who went on strike yesterday at 2 Ascension-owned hospitals in Wichita, Kansas, were likewise stopped from working today. The unionized nurses in both Kansas and Texas will hold a back-to-work rally on Saturday, July the 1st, when they return to their scheduled shift. So there's latest in the news. So let's talk about it. What do you got to say about this one? I was like, so that started out in Texas and Kansas. So let's get a little bit closer to Indiana for a second. And this next story comes out of the Lansing State Journal, and it's actually one that's a little bit more encouraging. And so this story says that Michigan nursing staff level subject of new legislation. So nurse Jeff Breslin was caring for 8 patients at once during the height of the COVID-19 pandemic, an experience that left him worn out and providing less care than he thought was acceptable. Breslin said he has seen patients suffer adverse health outcomes because they didn't receive one-on-one care, and like 42% of nurses surveyed in the state, he attributes at least some patients' deaths to staffing shortages among nurses. He's quoted as saying, "Try as I might not be able to do everything that I see that the patient could use for a quicker recovery for a shorter hospital stay. I'm doing the necessities, and that's about it," he said. The Democratic-controlled Michigan legislature is considering legislation that would set specific maximums for the number of patients nurses could be assigned to care for at a time. Hospital and Health Association officials say requiring nurse-to-patient ratios will increase costs, won't help solve current staffing shortages, and could lead to some facilities shutting down departments or closing completely because they can't maintain required staffing. I understand their argument, But I'm going to stop here and just say a little bit of comment here. I understand your argument, but operating as we are now is not working, and short staffing is short sighted. So, yeah, there has to be some sort of change. And as of yet, hospitals have not come up with an adequate response to short staffing and to make that change. So let's move on. Proponents call those concerns overblown and say that the law would reduce costs, improve worker mental health, lure nurses back into the field, and most importantly, better protect patients. And it could lower costs if the patients get better. I'm saying, this is me talking, get better, they get out quicker. That would save money. So here's the legislation. It's House Bill 4550, which set mandatory staffing ratios, meaning only a certain number of patients could be assigned to a specific nurse's care. The ratios differ depending on the type of care, from 1-to-1 for intensive care unit or birthing center to 1-to-4 for pediatrics, 1-to-6 for healthy postpartum mother baby care. Amy Brown, chief nursing officer at Sparrows Lansing Hospital, said that there are staff to patient ratios set in union contracts, but those ratios in the legislation would leave nurses caring for fewer patients in most settings. Sparrows' contract with its professional employees union generally calls for staffing levels at or fewer than 2 patients per nurse in intensive care, which I think, depending on the level of the acuity of the patient, might be doable. 5 patients per nurse for surgical and oncological nurse. 5 is kind of pushing it. And 8 patients per nurse for rehabilitation care. Sunny Johannes, a registered nurse at McLaren Hospital Lansing, said adequate staffing ratios are essential for patient safety. Stating, when nurses are assigned too many patients, they struggle to provide the timely and appropriate care for their patients, which increases the risk of medical errors, adverse effects, and complications. Brian Peters, CEO of Michigan Health and Hospital Association, which represents and lobbies for Michigan community hospitals, has shared his group's opposition to the proposal. So again, they are opposing this, and you can certainly read. I'm not going to read the whole article, but you can certainly read this whole statement. But it boils down to making sure that there are enough nurses to take care of you, and we'll see what happens. So critics at the legislation have asked where the new nurses are going to come from, and that there are about 8,000 open positions in Michigan hospitals. Well, that could be true, but there could be reasons for that. And maybe if you have safer staffing ratios, the nurses will come back. Ever think about that? All right, so let's talk about that and let me know what you think, because I want to keep going on with these stories. And this one I want to bring up just because this really isn't technically tied to nursing, but it can affect a lot of nurses. So, according from CNN, this report came out that pregnant workers and nursing moms have new protections on the job. And this is important for nurses to know. All right. So, of course, we're talking about having the private places for breastfeeding workers who are not covered under the previous affordable care provision. They include teachers, registered nurses, farm workers, and others. So, this is what's great. So, annually, nearly 2.8 million pregnant women, 70% of all pregnant women, worked while they were expecting. Advocates have been fighting to improve federal protections for pregnant workers for more than a decade. Saying that the Pregnancy Discrimination Act is inadequate and that most pregnancy-related conditions are not considered disabilities under the American with Disabilities Act. So at long last, pregnant workers can no longer be forced off the job for needing light-duty work or a stool to sit on to maintain a healthy pregnancy. Thank you. I'm like, really? You can't give somebody a stool? Come on now. Yeah, and it says working mothers will no longer have to fear job loss for needing time off to safely recover from childbirth. No longer will women nationwide face the impossible choice between maintaining a healthy pregnancy and affording food for their families, which is very important. And other countries do this very well and provide a maternity package and leave for them. And so, why we as an industrialized nation do not understand that and can't invest in our future? This person that they interviewed, by the name of LaGrosse, I'm sorry I don't have her first name, said she was working for an armored truck company on Long Island in New York, lifting bags of money and 40-pound boxes of coins, sometimes two or three at a time. 6 months into her pregnancy, she pulled a muscle in her stomach. Her doctor gave her a note saying that she would not be able to do heavy lifting. Instead of allowing LaGrosse to just drive the truck or expand the administrative work she was already doing, the company fired her. It was hard for her to get another job because she was visibly pregnant, she believes, so she had to apply for food stamps and almost lost her apartment. So that experience prompted her to become a community advocate. So the U.S. Chamber of Commerce was among the supporters of the two provisions. The Pregnant Workers Fairness Act clears up the confusion left in the wake of the 2015 Supreme Court ruling that involved a pregnant worker seeking an accommodation, said Mark Friedman, Vice President of Workplace Policy at the Chamber. It left employers unclear as to what their obligations are and what employees' rights are, and it prompted workers who thought they should get accommodations to take their employers to court. So I'm hoping that this works out. I think this will be a great thing. It'll be great for business, to do that. And really, you never know what could happen. You could actually be having future employees if you protect the pregnant mother. Maybe she'll work there forever and her child will come work for you. You never know. So yeah, I'm kind of glad about that. So we'll see what happens. So let's go to this story because we've been following continually the story about the fake diplomas that were given out in Florida. So this is coming from the Philadelphia Inquirer. And it says Philly area nurses say they're victims of fake degree scam. It says Ramutua Ali says, we did everything we were supposed to do. I went to school. I did the work. She said that the promise of a program to become a higher skill, better paid registered nurse. She took trips to Florida and back, spent hours on online learning and hands-on clinical training, and spent up to $14,000 on her education. It turned out to be too good to be true. Late last year, her nursing license was voided by authorities in Delaware, along with at least 34 nurses who graduated from sham schools. So the Pennsylvania Board of Nursing, if you didn't know, and others across the United States have been taking steps to revoke the licenses of people in connection with a nationwide scam involving the owner of 4 Florida-based schools that sold fake college degrees and transcripts. Those students used the fake credentials to get nursing licenses all over the country. Dubbed Operation Nightingale, the ongoing federal investigation has resulted in criminal indictments of 27 school operators and recruiters, including 2 from South Jersey. Ali is among the more 7,600 students who received degrees from schools in Florida that operated as a nursing diploma mills. To date, there have been no reports of patient harm that we are aware of. Nearly 100 of those nurses who claim to have been wrongly accused of buying fake degrees are now represented by Philly area lawyer Joseph Linto and are bringing the fight to state nursing boards to keep their licenses. And so it says that okay. I'm just double checking to make sure I'm keeping all of this. Okay. All right. So basically, what they said, they were told they had this big meeting. I read part of the article earlier. They had this big meeting and they brought them in and they were recruiting these students to come into these programs and then not providing them the correct information, basically scamming them, allegedly. So this is what's happening. So there's going to be continual fallout from this. All right. So let's talk about this story. I want to talk about this one here, coming from McKnight Long-Term Care News. So here's McKnight's Long-Term Care News. And finally, someone else is saying it besides me. It says, violence against nursing home caregivers is real. Now's the time to act. All I got to say is, yeah, better late than never. That concern that violence is committed in nursing home environment is an established fact. What may be lesser known challenge is that the nursing home staff are among the victimized. It is a concern for medical professionals in all settings and a barrier to recruiting when the shortage of qualified workers is an ongoing hurdle. It's hard to attract people to work in an environment where the risk of violence is high. And caregivers to aging populations are especially at risk when older adults have chronic conditions that limit their physical health or cognitive abilities. They may strike out with verbal abuse, sexual advances, or physical aggression. Due to the numbers employed in both assisted care facilities and nursing homes, nursing assistants are frequent targets of violence and aggressive behavior by patients. These caregivers play a vital role in the long term care sector, but often face a higher risk of injury from violent assaults at work. Various industry and community groups have pushed for more stringent guidelines to protect healthcare workers as a class. Professional associations, for example, have been pushing for legislative action that would criminalize assault and intimidation as it has for airline employees. Yes, I think, yes, most definitely. And government oversight agencies are stepping up too. In November, the Centers for Medicaid and Medicare and Medicaid Management Services issued a new quality, safety, and oversight memo concerning violence and its prevention in the wider healthcare setting. The memo stressed that CMS prioritized enforcement of regulatory expectations of a safe environment for effective delivery of care. It did not issue an enforcement change for nursing homes with the memo, although that may happen at some time. Currently, there is no federal occupational safety and health administration standard for preventing workplace violence in any industry, but some states, such as California, have their own. Isn't that a shame to hear that? There's no OSHA standard. And that is a problem. But one for healthcare, including residential care facilities, is being studied, and a working panel has been convened to lay the groundwork for a new regulatory framework. So we are going to see what this says. It says that the panel is charged with exploring a variety of topics as baseline concerns, not the least of which was that a programmatic approach to workplace violence prevention standard might entail. But other topics include hazard assessment, violence control measures, preventative training, and investigations and documentation. One concern is the ability to avoid stigmatizing residents, patients, and clients. Okay. The standard would cover about 14 million workers and 300,000 healthcare establishments, including hospitals, nursing homes, and various types of social services. The cost of compliance to employers is estimated by OSHA to be about $1.2 billion annually. With nursing homes alone, the cost is estimated at $177 million, with an average annual investment of $10,000 to sustain. So we'll see what happens out of this, but I just thought I'd bring that up. I can't read the whole article to you. It's 10 pages long. But I wanted to bring that up as a preface to what our next story will be, because I found this quite interesting as well. So this story is coming from scrubsmagazine.com. And this happens to be down under. This is something that happened in Australia. It says 2 nurses, 3 doctors injured in violent patient rampage. Healthcare professionals in Australia are calling for 24-hour security guards in hospitals after 2 nurses and 3 doctors were injured by a violent patient at Port Pirie Regional Health Service. The 75-year-old man approached a nurse in a hospital corridor, stepped on her foot, and punched her in the head before being chased around the ward, injuring another nurse and 3 doctors in the process, who were then treated for bruises in the emergency room. But the patient has yet to be arrested or charged with a crime. The police arrived on the scene to restrain the man who was experiencing a psychotic episode. According to the spokesperson for York and Northern Local Health Network, this follows a spate of violent incidents at regional hospitals where we don't believe the actions being taken by the hospitals and the local health network have been adequate. DeBars added that all staff have since returned to work and counseling arrangements have been made. Quote, these major regional hospitals where they have a high volume of patients and violence means that those staff really do need support. Enough is enough. Stop saying that a patient and staff safety is important and start demonstrating it by your actions. All these words mean nothing if no action is taken. So again, I wanted to bring this up because I wanted you to see it is not just a United States phenomenon. This goes on around the world, and nurses are sick of being beat up. and rightly so. So I don't want you to look at this in a silo. This is a systemic problem in healthcare that needs to be addressed. So this story, I'm going to start with this. This story, we're going back to New York now. And it says, out of Buffalo, owners and operators of four New York State nursing homes, including one in Buffalo, sued for fraud and neglect. New York Attorney General Letitia James, or is it Letitia? Letitia James has filed a lawsuit against the owners, operators, and landlords of four New York State nursing homes, including one in Buffalo, for fraud and neglect. The nursing homes are owned and operated by Centers for Care, LLC, and include Beth Abraham Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing in Bronx County, Buffalo Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing in Erie County, Hollingswood Center for Rehabilitation and Healthcare in Queens County, and Martine Center for Rehabilitation and Nursing in Westchester County. According to the Attorney General, Centers for Care LLC is accused of, quote, years of repeated and persistent fraud and illegally misusing more than $83 million in taxpayer money that resulted in significant resident neglect, harm, and humiliation. So I'm bringing this up because let's take a step back here. So they estimated that it would cost about $10,000 a year to do these safety measures, right? And yet we have a chain that has allegedly misappropriated $83 million. So this is why I wanted to bring that up, because I want to see that it's not just one thing or the other, right? And they say, well, we don't have the money to do that, but yet you have $83 million to siphon off. So allegedly. Okay. So the AG is seeking to prohibit nursing homes from admitting new residents until staffing meets adequate standards, implement a financial monitor and a healthcare monitor, discourage any and all wrongful received government funds. The AG said further investigations in other nursing homes and facilities throughout the state are ongoing. So I bring that up because this is a lot that's going on. And as consumers, as healthcare workers, we need to be aware of what's happening. We need to be aware of what's going on. All right. So we're going back across the pond here. This came out of Nursing Times. And this is another incident. Again, I'm bringing these things out that are happening worldwide because I want you to understand it's not just healthcare here in America. There are issues all over, and this is a big issue for nursing. It says nurses were ignored during pandemic decision-making COVID-19 inquiry told. Those representing the nursing profession were shut out of key decision making during the pandemic, the UK COVID-19 inquiry has been told. Rose Gallagher, the first nurse to give evidence to the inquiry, and Royal College of Nursing professional lead in infection prevention control, said the voice of the nurses had been overlooked in preparations for a pandemic. Despite learnings from previous incidents, those representing the nursing profession were not consulted or engaged in developing clinical guidance for COVID-19, said Ms. Gallagher, who contributed to the inquiry in writing and verbally on Monday. Despite being the largest group within the healthcare workforce, that is by far true in every health system. Nurses were the biggest group, okay? So she says, despite being the largest group within the healthcare workforce, they were effectively shut out from key decision making in COVID-19, and their voice and expertise were ignored. Additionally, Ms. Gallagher highlighted the ways in which institutional and organizational issues obstructed effective pandemic planning. Preparations were put in place for, quote, the wrong pandemic due to an excessive focus on the most predictable risk of influenza, despite expert warnings about other pandemic risks. The government also too focused on hospitals rather than including primary care and other care settings. Ms. Gallagher further claimed that nurses were put at risk before and during COVID-19 pandemic and that the UK remains, quote, unprepared for any future emergence of COVID-19 or any other health emergency. Already well understood workforce issues, quote, immediately put nurses at risk when they were called upon to increase capacity in the healthcare system. We went into the pandemic about 50,000 nurses short. Ms. Gallagher said, this is significantly undermines the UK's resilience to deal with a pandemic on this scale. Ms. Gallagher also told the inquiry that the RCN had highlighted the overrepresentation of nurses from minority ethnic backgrounds on the front lines of the pandemic and had warned that there would be at increased risk of exposure. However, she claimed that the government did not take any action to address the extra risk posed to minority ethnic nurses by a pandemic. In a written summary submitted to the inquiry, she also said that a focus on preparations for Brexit had drawn government resources and priorities away from the proper pandemic planning. A government spokesperson said, quote, throughout the pandemic, the government acted to save lives and livelihoods, prevent the NHS being overwhelmed, and deliver a world-leading vaccine rollout, which protected millions of lives across the nation. We have always said that there are lessons to be learned from the pandemic, and we are committed to learning from the COVID-19 inquiry's finding, which will play a key role in informing the government's planning and preparations for the future. We will consider all recommendations made to the department in full. So in other words, they're giving lip service because nowhere in there did they say, you know what? Why don't you come and be a part of our response team, Ms. Gallagher? I didn't hear them say that. Or how about we invite other nurses to participate and we ask the RCN to come in? Didn't hear that either. So again, it is not just in the United States. There are systemic problems all over that nurses are beginning to fight against and make our voices heard. So I want to end today's session with Nurse Making a Difference. And I thought this was really interesting. This came from the salemnews.com, and it was a opinion piece about remembering our home front nurses, heroes, WW2 cadet nurses. So I thought this was interesting. So this comes from, it says July 1st marks the 80th anniversary of the U.S. Cadet Nurse Corps. And here in Massachusetts, it's called WW2 Cadet Nurse Day. In 1943, at the height of World War II, Congress passed legislation creating the United States Nurse Corps to meet the critical shortage of trained nurses as nurses were being sent to the military hospitals. Female high school graduates as young as 17 were recruited, given 3 years of training. They were issued military uniforms and pledged their service until the war ended, not knowing when that would be. They worked 12-hour days, 6 days a week, and a half a day every other Sunday. More than 1,224 women served in the USCNC. In Massachusetts, 9,000 women served in 26 hospitals. In their last 6 months, they were deployed wherever needed to serve in the military, government, or civilian hospitals in the 48 states and the territories of Alaska and Hawaii. Because of cadet nurses, our injured soldiers returned to well-staffed hospitals where they received life-saving care from trained nurses. When the war ended and the USCNS was decommissioned in 1948, the women received little recognition for their role in the success of World War II, where they provided 80% of all the military and civilian nursing care and prevented a complete collapse of the healthcare system. The Corps is the only uniformed service that has not been recognized as World War II veterans. There is legislation to fix this. Senate 1633 and House 3428, the United States Cadet Nurse Service Recognition Act of 2023. The bill will grant honorary veteran status to the few remaining cadet nurses. There are no veterans, medical, or financial benefits, and burial at Arlington Cemetery is excluded. They only asked for recognition for their service to our country with an American flag and gravestone marker. Veteran status have been awarded to other groups such as the Merchant Mariners and Women Air Force Service Pilots, the WASPs. Even the entertainer Bob Hope was given honorary veteran status. So I want to salute and say thank you for your service to all those nurses that put themselves on the line for our servicemen during World War II. And yes, I hope that they finally get recognized for what they do. All right. And our last nurse making a difference, because I just couldn't leave it alone. This is coming from Nursing Times, and it's recognizing Nola Ishmael. And I love this story. Okay, so Nola Ishmael, at the age of 19, left Barbados for England to train as a nurse. Within 18 months of qualifying as an SRN, she was promoted to unit sister in the neurosurgical unit of Maudsley Hospital in London. Later, she went on to qualify as a health visitor working in the then Guy's Health District, where she later became a community manager in Southwark. In 1987, she was appointed Assistant Director of Nursing in Greenwich. 18 months later, she was promoted to Director of Nursing, thereby becoming the first BME nursing director in the NHS in London. In other words, the first Black minority person. Okay. This is 1987, by the way. We're not talking about 1887. We're not talking about 1920. No, 1987. In 1994, Nola was offered a secondment to the Department of Health for 6 months. This extended to a 10-year tenure, there we go, where she worked closely with health ministers and chief nursing officers in different roles, including professional private secretary to the chief nursing officer. She then led on the establishment of the Mary Seacole Leadership Award, supporting the first 10 recipients of this award. And we had talked about Mary Seacole during Nurses Month. Nola was awarded the OBE in the Queen's Birthday Honors in 2000. In 2003, she also received an honorary doctorate degree from Services to Nursing from Bingham City University. She also received the Nursing Times Diamond Award, as well as one of the top 50 influential nurses in the last 100 years. She was among 15 health leaders who had a portrait displayed in the National Portrait Gallery in London in 2006. After finally retiring in 2012, she remains active as a mentor and motivational speaker. So I wanted to say congratulations to her as a nurse, making a difference and making such a big impact. So I just thought that was great. So that ends our news segment. So let's get on to the announcements. So, yes, the CNA school is happening. You can now get on the website and look at our website for Baxter Professional Services Health Education. This is where we're going to house not only the nursing assistant training school, the home health aid training, eventually the qualified medication aid training, but it also will house our basic TB validation course, so you can sign up and register directly on our website. It will also house our CPR courses. So even if you sign up on the American Heart Association website, I'm going to update that so that you'll click on the link so it'll take you to our website so you can fully register there and pay. And you don't have to worry about going through PayPal or anything like that, unless you choose to use PayPal. But you can pay directly on our website when you register for our classes. So I wanted to share that. Great coming up. Our new website is up. We have been approved for our CNA training school. So you'll be seeing some more information when that comes out. Speaking of, we have some information time. I put on the calendar for July 19th at 12 noon, right here at our office, 1416 Lincoln Street. Suite 1, we'll have a CNA training information session for anybody that's thinking about going into CNA training. We will have that available to tell you how to get enrolled and the things that you'll need to have. What you'll need to have is the application completed. You'll need to have your criminal history background check done. You'll need to have your TB tests completed. You'll need to have your immunization records. All those things will be needed before you start, along with your down payment. So we'll go over all that information for you. But if you can't attend the live session and come in person, we also have on that date at 5, at, wait a minute, at not 7 o'clock. At 7 o'clock, we have on that date a online training session. So you can just get on the Zoom at 7 o'clock that evening. If you have questions, and I'll be there to answer questions. So you can attend the live at 12 or come on Zoom at 7. Now, there's a lot going on. So I'm excited. I'm just too excited. And because I get excited, then I talk really fast. Okay. So I'm going to slow it down because this is my second nurse training school that I've started. Helped other people start their own nurse training school. So I thought, why don't we do a 3-day free challenge where I give you some basic steps to go to start your own CNA training school. So if you want to learn how to do this and you want to start your own school wherever you are, then let's talk about it. And I'll give you the basic framework to help you to do just that. And you can start your own CNA training school. So how cool is that? Now, you can sign up and register. You may have seen the ad, but you can go to our website, the NurseSharkAcademy.com, NurseSharkAcademy.biz, and sign up for our CNA school challenge, right? And I'm going to give you 3 days of content. We're going to talk about it. It lasts about an hour each day. We're going to give you the steps to start your CNA training school wherever you are, how to get started. And then if you want to, now we have our free challenge. You'll get all that on Nurse Shark Academy. That will all be in our challenge group. So when you sign up, you have to join the challenge group on the Nurse Shark Academy Facebook page in order for you to get in. Or you can upgrade to VIP. And if you upgrade to VIP, which is $27, you will get access to the recordings later on. You'll also get access to the worksheets. You'll get access to the other bonuses that I have in there. And then there'll be a special one-on-one time question and answer just for VIP. So you'll have that after you get the content. There'll be times for you to ask me questions. So you get a chance to ask me questions. So that will be there but that's just for VIP who come backstage in that Zoom. So that will not be live streamed. Hear me now. That will not be live streamed to the challenge group. So we will end that live stream. And who's ever in the Zoom gets to stay in the Zoom and get all the bonuses and stuff. And the rest of you, you get what you need, you go on, and that's fine, no problem. So, but yeah, it's for 3 days. So it's Tuesday, June 18th from 5:30 to 6:30, Wednesday, June 19th, and Thursday, June 20th. July 18th, 19th, and 20th. Okay. 5:30 p.m. Again, if you miss it, the replays will be available in the Facebook group for a limited amount of time. So the next day on the 21st, I'll give you to midnight on the 20th, but on the 21st, those videos are coming down. And they will come out of the challenge group. But if you want lifetime access to those videos, then you will need to go ahead and sign up and be VIP. All right, is that fair? So that gives me the opportunity to help train everyone and to get what they need. I just thought, you know what? Let's get to some brass tacks and help you get what you need to go. All right. Hi, First Lady Harris. Thanks for tuning in. So that's what I have coming up. So check out our websites. Check out the new Baxter Professional Services Health Education website. It's BaxterProfessionalServicesHealthEducation.com. And also go to our NurseSharkAcademy.biz to sign up for the Nurse Shark Academy and to join our free challenge, which comes up next month. So that's all of my announcements for today. Thanks for tuning in. I can't wait till next week and we get to start off and do something great. And I just want to say goodbye. So have a great rest of your evening. I'm excited because I have to get ready for a podcast interview. So I'm going to be a guest on someone's podcast. And let me know if there's any other trainings, like any other challenges that you might want to know about. Like, how to be a podcast guest. I can help you with that one. Maybe you want to learn about starting a staffing agency. I can help you with that one. And what's nice is that if you turn into the Nurse Shark Academy show and listen to our show, you can get on Podbean or wherever, YouTube, you can get it. You can hear about all these different nurses that are doing great things, and you never know what will be open to you. So tune into the show. All right, that's it. Bye bye for now. Have a great rest of your day.